Looking for a job? Well, here are 10 red flags to look out for before applying for that job and after you scored the interview. Let's go.
Love me or hate me, God knows you made it when he let his eyes on me.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to the This Behaving Gal podcast. So happy to have you here for another episode. Well, with Amazon, Microsoft, Visa, Estee Lauder, Tesla, and so many other companies already slashing their workforce, no doubt many of you have already begun looking for a job. In fact, some of you might be on a job right now looking for a career change. And if that's the case, I got you. I've worked in so many different roles, and I can tell you the 10 red flags that you need to keep an eye out for. Now, if you're one of the people who scans job posts, and don't feel bad, I'm not judging you, I've done this myself, and you go immediately to the salary and benefits section without giving a second glance to the job description and seeing if this is exactly the job you want, you've got to be very careful here. You've got to slow down. Many of you are missing or ignoring red flags that let you know straight up that this is not the company for you. So I'm going to be counting down from 10 to 1, all of the things that you need to look out for. And believe me, you are going to want to stick around for number 1 because it's one of those things that people rarely talk about. So let's go. Number 10, the company doesn't have a lot of information online. Do a quick Google search of the company. What are you finding? Most companies should have some sort of online presence, whether they have a website or they have social media accounts or YouTube, or they should be present in some sort of trade magazine. There should be something that gives you some indication about the company that you're seeking to work for. But if you find yourself scouring the internet looking for something, anything on the company, and you keep coming up empty-handed, that's a red flag. The company could be a startup that's trying to find its footing, or it could be a really crappy company trying to keep a low profile, or it could be a mob organization. We like to keep things really quiet. Either way, you should know as much as you can about the company you're applying to, and that information shouldn't have to come during the interview stage. Number 9, they don't post a salary range. Now, some people don't have an issue with this, but I do. If you're trying to attract top talent into your ranks, why waste their time dragging them into the interview stage only for them to find out then that what you're offering is significantly below their asking price? In the US, several states have passed pay transparency legislation requiring employers to disclose pay ranges for positions. Now, I'm very fortunate because here in Washington, D.C., where I live, we happen to be one of those places. Also, according to a 2023 survey by Gartner HR, 68% of candidates say they expect to see salary information in job postings, and 64% of candidates say they are more likely to apply to a job that lists compensation in their description. 44% of candidates say they decided not to apply to a job in a 12-month period because the job description did not list the salary. Number 8. And this is one of my biggest pet peeves. The job description is never ending. And I'm sure a lot of you have your own personal experiences with this. The long list of duties tells me 3 things. Number 1, your company is severely under-resourced, so your candidate is going to be wearing multiple hats. Number 2, you don't have a defined focus for the role, so you're just throwing any and everything at the candidate, hoping that they bite. And number 3, your candidate is going to be burnt out in 2 weeks. For those types of job descriptions, there seems to be no limit in the scope of work. So as far as I'm concerned, there needs to be no limit in the scope of compensation. But that's just me. You can tell me what you think down below in the comment section. Number 7, you're finding recurring problems on Glassdoor. So for those of you unfamiliar with Glassdoor, it's a website that allows job seekers to see information on a potential employer. So current or former employees can anonymously share their experiences about their time at the company, and you'll learn about the problems, the pros, the cons of the job, and how management functions. So let's just say you want to work in tech and you want to work for Google. Google sounds so cool. Google sounds great, but you know nothing about Google from the inside. You only know the outside. So you can go to Glassdoor and you will see what it's like, what the culture is like, what management is like. Does Google not pay on time? You'll find that out from the employees there. And you have to be really careful sometimes because, yes, you do have some employees who might have an axe to grind, but I find it very unlikely that 50, 100, or 200 people could have the same axe to grind. There is a recurring theme that you don't need to ignore. All right, you guys still with me? We're still in the pre-interview stage now, but you want to stick around for number 1, I promise you, in the interview stage. Okay, so number 6. You keep seeing the same job post month after month after month. If you see a job post in January, and then you see that same job post in April, and then you see that same job post in June, that's a red flag. It is highly unlikely in this job climate where everybody is clamoring for a job that no one is applying to this job, so it has to keep reposting in January, April, and June. The only way I can see that happening is if there is something fundamentally wrong with this company. For example, the company could be making promises in the ad where they say, we have certain job benefits. And then when you get into the interview stage, you realize those benefits are non-existent. So the person says, I'm out. That is not what was advertised. Also, it could signal an employee retention problem where the person gets into the role, they realize, oh my gosh, it's super toxic. This is not what I want. And then they get out a few weeks later. So I'm going to expand upon that a little later on. So just stay tuned for that. All right. So yay, you've landed the interview and now you're sitting in front of your future employer and they say number 5.
Around here, we're family. We're like a family around here. This is like a family environment.
Run. This is not your family. If you mess up, you're gone. You don't meet your sales goals, you're gone. You call out too many times because you're sick or you're tending to a sick child or a sick parent, you're gone. You are only considered family to the extent that you can be used. Oftentimes, this is a manipulative tactic that a lot of employers will employ to get employee loyalty. They want their employees to give way more than they should. And as family, you're going to be making a lot of sacrifices in this role, be it earning below market pay or having your boss encroach on your personal time. So be careful about the we're a family title. Well, if you made it this far, we're getting so close to the number 1 red flag, so stay tuned for that. Number 4, too many captains, not enough crew. If you're in the interview stage, you need to look around and ask your boss to be, who's your team? Who's going to be in your team? Now, if your boss or your future boss is staring at you like this and they're like, well, there it is. You're the team. Red flag. You will be run ragged trying to accomplish the work of several people without the paycheck of multiple people. Even if you're working for a small business, you shouldn't be expected to process payroll, do the marketing, answer the phones, be the personal assistant. It's too much. You're going to burn out very quickly. And even worse than that, if you're answering to too many captains, if you're taking commands from multiple people, things are going to get very confusing and it's going to be very difficult for you. And if they're at odds, you're going to be caught in the middle. Number 3, the past 6 months have been a revolving door. And I touched on this a little earlier. So during the interview stage, few people ask why a role is vacant. I have been in the position to hire people and I can tell you, like when that time comes, very few people even ask questions. Like we will ask people questions all the time, but they don't ask not one question. They don't even care to know why the role is vacant. When you go into the interview, ask why there's an opening and try to glean why the person who was there before you left. How long were they there before they left? Were they there for years? Were they there for months? Were they there for weeks? Were they there for days? Were they there for hours? You want to know why somebody would have walked in and left so quickly or why they left after a few years. If it's the latter, if somebody left after a few hours, a few weeks, or a few months, it could be a sign of a real red flag. It says that the person saw or experienced something that they did not like, whether it's toxicity or the way that their boss treated them. Whatever happened, they saw something that caused them to quit quickly. Now, many of you who are listening to this episode, you know just how difficult it is to land a job these days. So for someone to walk away from that job very quickly, that should tell you something. By the way, we're almost to the finish line, but number 2, read the room. When you walk into the boardroom, or the conference room or the employer's office, wherever they're interviewing you, take a look around at what the other employees are doing. How are their faces set? What's their disposition? Do they look happy? Do they look engaged? Are they engaging with you? Are they smiling with you? Are they being nice towards you? Are they welcoming? Or do they have sort of like a sour look on their faces? Are they in the corner snickering, like chuckling really low, knowing that you just walked through the office? What are they saying? Do you see somebody in the corner making the sign of the cross? Those current employees are your greatest clues to what it's like to work in that office. Also, and this is part of reading the room, ask the interviewer what it's like to work there. Ask them about the company culture. Ask them, and I've asked people this question before, tell me 3 reasons why I wouldn't want to work here. Tell me why I would not want to work here or I shouldn't work here. Now, that usually gets a few chuckles and,
oh, I can't find a reason.
I say there has to be a reason. Why did the person leave this role? Tell me. This is your chance now to really grill that person. A lot of times people go into interviews and they think it's just about them being interviewed. The person wants an employee, but you also want a job. And is this the right fit? Is this the place where you want to be? So definitely ask them those questions and don't be shy about it. Let them see, okay, this person is serious. And then that gives you further insight as to whether you would be a good match. If you see that employer is showing some hesitancy. They're reluctant to answer any of those questions, or they're sort of like brushing it off. Red flag, run. And now this brings us to number 1. And I know a lot of you are like, well, what's number 1? Because the family thing, you live like a family around here. That's usually the one that people say, oh yeah, run when you hear that. But what's number 1? I'll tell you what number 1 is. And it's something that a lot of people don't give a lot of thought to. Number 1 is the company doesn't research you. How many of you have applied for a job and the potential employer doesn't even do any background checks on you? Now, I'm not talking about if you're applying for a federal job, you're in the CIA, they're going to do their due diligence. But I'm talking about in the private sector. You go for any type of job and they're just like, oh, this is your degree. This is your so-and-so. Okay, they don't ask to see copies of your degrees. They don't do any reference checks. They don't have anything in hand other than your word. And they say, when can you start? That's a major red flag for me because it says that they do not value their business, that they can let a complete and virtual stranger off the street and into their ranks without properly vetting them. It also signals to me that they just want a warm body in there to do the job. Without properly investigating you, the employer will never fully trust you, which means that if something were to go wrong in the business or something were to go missing in the business, let's just say some money went missing or some very expensive equipment went missing, they're going to naturally just look at you because they don't know you, because they did not properly vet you. So that's number 1. It's one that a lot of people overlook, but trust me, you don't want to just be a warm body in an organization. You want to know that they really went out of their way to put you there. They hired you because they felt that you had the expertise and the knowledge and the degrees and everything else that comes with it. They didn't just put you in there just because we lost someone last week. We need someone in here to do it, because guess what? You might be the next person they lose. Anyway, guys, I hope you enjoyed this episode. I really enjoyed doing this video. It's a nice little break from politics, right? And this was one of those videos that was a request. I get a lot of requests in my DMs from people, and they've watched some of my content on jobs. I'm not like a certified HR professional or anything like that. I'm just somebody who has hired a lot of people, and I've also been hired by a lot of people. So I definitely get both sides of it. So drop your comments down below. I cannot wait to hear from you all. For those of you who are searching for a job, have you guys been on any job interviews recently and then you've seen these red flags that I talked about? Have you come across any job? Like the other day, one of my friends, she's looking for a job and she sent me this job description that was what I should have freaking found that. I wonder if she'll send that to me. This long. And then we got to talking about this stuff and I was like, these people are tripping. But anyway, drop your comments down below. Let me know what your job search has been like and what kind of red flags you've seen, not just in the interview process, but in the application process. Let me know, and I will see you guys in my next episode. Da 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 da.
We like to keep it really quiet.
Love me